Let's talk about the 401k. For millions of us, it's the main and sometimes the only way we're saving for retirement. But what if the whole system, the very foundation of it, was kind of designed against you from the start? Some people are saying it's just a fee-generating machine that's put all the financial risk on our shoulders. But others say, no way, it's one of the best tools we have for building wealth. So which is it? Let's get into it and unpack this whole controversy.
Okay, this is where it all gets really interesting. This quote just set off a bomb in the financial world. The guy who is literally called the father of the 401k, Ted Benna, looks at what his invention had turned into and called it a nightmare. I mean, that is a jaw-dropping thing to hear from the creator himself. It really makes you stop and think, what could have possibly gone so wrong? You know, to understand the problem, we really have to go back in time and look at this huge change in how retirement works in America. It's a story all about risk and who's been left holding the bag.
So, the first big knock against the 401k is this. It was never really meant to be an upgrade for workers. Critics say it was a cost-cutting move for companies. And what it led to was maybe the single greatest transfer of financial risk in American history.
This slide says it all, doesn't it? For a long time, lots of companies had pensions. The deal was they took on all the investment risk, and you were guaranteed a paycheck for the rest of your life. If the market crashed, that was their problem, not yours. But the 401k, which started as this little side thing, completely flipped that on its head. Companies saw a way out of their expensive pension promises and boom, suddenly you're the fund manager. You have to pick the investments. You have to ride out every single market crash. All of that risk, it's shifted right from their books onto yours.
Okay, so that's the risk part. But the second major charge is that the 401k system isn't just risky, it's basically a money-making machine built on fees that quietly eats away at your future, often without you having any clue it's even happening.
Most of us, we probably think we're paying one simple fee, but it's almost never that easy. This breaks down all the hidden layers. You've got your basic management fees for the funds, sure. Then there are administrative fees, transaction fees, and then you get into this weird stuff like 12b-1 marketing fees, where you are literally paying for the fund to advertise itself to other people. It's this whole tangled web of charges that feels like it's designed to be confusing.
So what's the actual damage here? I mean, how much can a small fee really hurt? Well, according to critics, a seemingly tiny 2% annual fee can wipe out 40% or even more of your final nest egg over a career. Just let that sink in. Almost half of the money you could have had, just gone, vanished into thin air, all because of compounding fees.
And I love this analogy because it just makes it so clear. It sounds completely absurd, right? But that's what critics say is happening with 401k fees. It's not one price, it's 100 little charges, a lot of them hidden away, that all add up to take a huge bite out of your meal, or in this case, your entire retirement.
And it gets even more complicated with this practice called revenue sharing. So, your plan might say it has free administration, but come on, nothing's ever really free. How it's paid for is that the investment funds in your plan kick back a piece of their fees to the administrator. Now here's the crazy part. This means that the people who are in the high-cost funds are actually paying for the administration costs of everyone else in the plan. So two people with the exact same amount of money saved can pay totally different amounts for the exact same service. It's pretty wild.
Okay, so we've talked risk, we've talked fees. The third big criticism is even bigger. It argues that the whole 401k system, especially with its tax breaks, is actually making wealth inequality in America even worse.
The 401k gets a huge tax subsidy from the government, but just look at where that money goes. According to research, the top 10% of earners get a mind-boggling 60% of all the tax benefits. The system is just set up to give the biggest breaks to the people who can save the most, which of course is the highest earners.
And this slide just shows you the brutal results of that. The savings gap is enormous. The top income bracket, they've got a median savings over $600,000. Middle-class folks, just over $64,000. And for the bottom fifth of earners, retirement savings are basically a rounding error, close to zero. Critics say even things like the employer match just make it worse, since higher earners can contribute more and get more of that free money, just widening the gap.
Okay, so, wow, that is a pretty scathing critique, right? It sounds terrible, but that is only one side of the coin. Supporters argue that, hey, despite all these flaws, the 401k is absolutely not a scam. In fact, it's an incredibly valuable and powerful tool.
So let's just ask the question head-on. Are these problems so bad that they make the whole system a ripoff? Or are they just issues that can be fixed inside a program that's actually, pretty good?
Well, here's the #1 argument in its defense. And it's a big one. It's all about access. The data is crystal clear. The single biggest reason someone saves for retirement is just having a plan available at work. When a company offers a plan, participation is super high. But when they don't, fewer than 5% of people will go out and open an IRA on their own. The 401k gets people in the game, period.
And what about that whole tax bomb argument? The idea that you're just putting off a massive tax bill until you retire. Well, that's not really the full picture anymore. As you can see here, a lot of plans now offer a Roth 401k option. With the Roth, you pay the taxes now, and then all your withdrawals in retirement are completely tax-free. So you can totally get rid of that future tax risk if you want to. The bottom line is you have a choice.
So where does that leave us? Okay, the system isn't perfect. We can all agree on that. But it's not a total lost cause either. The conversation is really shifting now, away from is it a scam, and more towards how do we fix a system that has some obvious problems, but also some real benefits.
One of the key problems that researchers have zeroed in on is this weird thing called dominated funds. Okay, imagine you go to the store and there are two identical boxes of cereal on the shelf, right next to each other. But one costs twice as much as the other. That makes no sense, right? Well, that's what's happening in over half of all 401k plans. They offer a high-cost fund right next to a nearly identical, much cheaper one, costing employees a ton of money for absolutely no reason.
So the good news is there are some really smart people thinking about how to fix this stuff. Here are a few of the big ideas. First, just make low-cost funds the default option, so you're automatically put in a good spot. Second, let people who are stuck in really expensive plans roll their money into a cheap IRA without having to quit their job. Third, change the matching rules to help lower-income workers save more. And finally, make sure you get to keep your employer's contributions faster so you don't lose out if you change jobs.
All right, we've gone through the arguments for and against, so what's the final verdict here? What does all of this mean for you and for your money? Let's bring it all home.
Let's just boil it all down. This slide really captures the whole debate in a nutshell. The scam argument, it pushes all the risk onto you, fees eat away your savings, and it makes inequality worse. The tool argument, it gives you access to saving, gives you free money with the employer match, and has amazing tax advantages. And you know what? Both sides have some really valid points.
So let's forget the big policy debates for a second. Let's talk about what you can actually do, like right now. First, no matter what, contribute enough to get your full employer match. It's a 100% return on your money instantly. It's the best deal you will ever get in finance. Second, be a detective about your fees. Ask your plan administrator or look up the expense ratio for your funds. Find out what you are paying. And third, look for low-cost, diversified index funds. They are almost always the smartest, most efficient way to build wealth over the long haul.
At the end of the day, your 401k isn't your enemy, but it's not your savior either. It's a tool, a really powerful tool that can be used well or it can be used poorly. So the real question this whole debate brings up isn't really is the system a scam, it's are you in control of your 401k and are you making that tool work for you?